How was the
quality time.
Yeah. This is your date. I was gonna say right here. Sandra, why is your note keeping thing showing up there?
That's because I have an assistant that takes notes.
I know, but I'm trying to make you not tagged on the screen.
Oh.
Great, you know how to fix that?
What do we fix it?
I don't want Sandra's note taking on the
I'm like, I
big
have an
screen.
Sandra's no tech.
No, well, yeah, it's like the fella, but not.
And then,
There we go.
There.
Thank you.
I love it.
I was okay. Because I have all these people that. So you can call this meeting to order. We don't have to do the Pledge of Allegiance yet, and then take us out as a work session to the food truck. And we'll do the work session, then you'll close it, and you can open the regular session.
So, calling this meeting to order. I'm calling this meeting out of order, I guess, and we're gonna go into a work session. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So your dinners are available at our brand new food truck. I think this is the first meal that's been served. It's not all made from scratch. Okay, some of it's pre-made that we purchased, but you know, we'll go out there, give you a chance to take a look at the food truck, which was partially paid for by the CTE revitalization grant. Take a little tour, and then we'll take a picture, and then we'll come back.
All right, cool, perfect.
how are you? Yeah.
Morning coffee.
Yes, I know.
I'm hoping
I really want to make that point. I don't know.
She's so funny.
Yeah, she's awesome.
They like her.
The kids like her too.
Do they? Well, she seems so cute.
Yes,
Amber with us.
She also like, yeah, you can. She also has really good classroom management, so it's not like chaos, so it's.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. That's so. We're getting in right now. We're just, right now, we're doing work session, so goal one will go first. Does anybody need a napkin? I'll grab one for you. Here. You guys pass it around. Thank you.
Would you like this soon, Jenny?
I'm good. Thank you.
You're good? Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so Anna's called us into a work session, and so this is that meeting, kind of the quarterly meeting where we report out on goals. And so I have goal 1 first, if I can find it. Goal 1, there it is, ta-da. So let me share that. And our goal 1 presenters are Creighton and Sarah. Looks like it.
You do what you need to do. I'll buy you some time.
Make sure the mouse is in the correct direction.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad we didn't forget
You rolled them out.
To win. Oh, well, we got some old
that. Okay.
Game of Thrones stuff coming up too.
Well, this is cool.
Yeah.
There we go. No, we're good. So goal 1 is we shared out in January that quite a bit of our work was actually already accomplished. And in January, we were kind of in the last phases of this goal. There were a couple pieces we were still working on. But I'm happy to say we've continued that momentum and we're doing well. So just as a recap of this one, so for 1A, both the performance indicator and then our measurement tool, this was something that we were able to accomplish back early into the school year of just kind of creating our calendar and our scope of sequence for our new social emotional learning curriculum, second step, which kind of created a K-12 thread for social emotional learning. As I sit here right now, we have no reason to not bring back second steps for next year as well. So we're still in the process of bargaining prices and things like that, but that's the idea, is to not shift to another social emotional curriculum, but to just continue the work that we did with that particular one. So this was one where I indicated that we were in progress, and so with this particular one, in January we were releasing out to all of the schools something called a school belongingness survey. It's actually a very specific survey. It's got about 10 or 12 questions on it. And the questions are really designed to help measure an individual student's perspective on whether or not they feel like they belong. And that's a tough thing to measure, because how anybody feels like they belong is really subjective. Some people feel, are extroverts that are out there that want to be a part of everything. And so how deeply they are engaged and find opportunities to engage, that develops their sense of belongingness. And that can be totally different than, perhaps our introverts, or those that have, goals and objectives outside of the school day, and their bucket is filled elsewhere and in other ways. And so it's kind of a difficult thing to measure, but we did roll out this survey for, I believe, grades either 2 through 12 or 3 through 12. It was done by individuals. So it was given to the individuals. The younger grades, again, like, we didn't feel like we could put this in front of a kindergartner and have them do anything other than just draw circles around numbers. So in that capacity, those teachers kind of led the discussion. Thumbs up if you feel this, thumbs down if you don't feel this. And so we were able to get back all of the data of the electronic survey for 3 through 12. We had 507 responses. And so if you look at the number that we would have had available to us, you think we probably have somewhere in the range of, let's call it 150 K through 2. If you pull that out from our total student body population, we're actually not that far away from getting a pretty full collection of 3 through 12 with our electronic survey. So we did well there. And then this is kind of what the K through 2 teacher-led discussion looked like. So the teacher kind of filled them in. Students were kind of circling their thumbs up and thumbs down. So we did our best to try and collect the data to the best fidelity that we could. And so some of those survey questions on and how the responses were, I really feel I can really be myself in my school. And so, we would be hoping for mostly greens and oranges. So your green is, I almost always feel like I can be myself. Your oranges, I oftentimes feel like I can be myself. So we'd obviously be looking here. And so something, in the range of about 2/3 of our students for this particular response, feeling like they can be themselves in school. I feel like I don't belong in this school. So then we're obviously, kind of playing with the negative side there. So you'd want to see more blues and reds here. So obviously that's a nice return because you're showing, 3/4 of our students are saying that they never or rarely ever feel like they don't belong. I have close and sincere relationships with my teachers and their friends. So again, kind of greens and the orange colors. So again, we're kind of playing in that 2/3 area. And so, and then what we also did is we recognized that when we did the Youth Truth survey back in November, there were a lot of Youth Truth question and responses that also played in that belongingness sandbox. And so I kind of pulled a lot of those Youth Truth survey data results kind of into our analysis. And this one I think I think this one was middle school. Yeah, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. The degree in which students feel welcome at their school, they have collaborative relationships with their classmates. Here's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So just kind of showing, Oregon schools falling in here. So we just kind of collected as much data as we could to try to arrive at some sort of analysis of what the data is telling us. And kind of the initial findings, that about 3 out of 4 students often or almost always feel like they can be themselves. They feel like they belong. They feel like school is a safe and caring place for them. The majority of the respondents often or almost always feel accepted by people, whether it's their peers or their staff. So at surface level, we're saying, okay, 3 out of 4 students feel like they really belong. That's great. It also kind of leads to the question, well, there's 25% out there that are saying they don't always feel like they belong or they don't feel like they belong. And I think in the same vein in which we would never set a graduation goal of 92%, because you're going to sit there and say, well, does that mean the 8% that don't graduate, that doesn't matter? Like, you're setting your graduation goal at 100%. And in the same respect here, I think 75% for our first kind of run at this belongingness survey gives us good data, but it also tells us that there is a group of students at all 3 schools at a variety of levels that are questioning whether or not they belong, and this feels like they have a sense of belongingness. Now, I don't sit here and say that is good, bad, right, wrong, left, right, up, down, because it's the data. What we do with the data ultimately matters next, and that's where the personal relationships with our counselors and teachers and all of those kind of things really start to come into play. And so the next steps is our school counselors are going to take this data, our BST team is going to take this data, and they are going to work with it themselves, but then they're also going to be able to meet with their building administrators and say, okay, do we have the ability? We didn't collect names with data, so we're not going to be able to go out and say, hey, you don't feel like you belong, why is that? But what we will be able to do is work with building administrators to say, for the rest of this year or starting next year, like, what can we strategically do to try and increase a sense of corporate collective belongingness within our schools? But then it also can heighten the awareness that individual counselors have to recognize that there is, 1 out of 4 students in their buildings that are questioning their sense of belongingness. And, we can hypothesize that if they're questioning their sense of belongingness, those might be our students that are more at risk for chronic absenteeism. They are more at risk for dropout, concerns and things like that, because they don't feel connected. And so we can pull on that thread in a variety of ways, but it's just more data to just kind of validate that for the most part, I think we're doing really well, but there's still obviously work to be done.
Do you think that some of the children that might have answered where they don't feel like they belong, maybe it's like their home life that is creating that?
It's yeah.
Because like if they don't feel good enough at home, they're not feel good
Yeah.
enough at school.
Yeah, no, it certainly could be, and it's also similar to when we do our state testing and we look at those results, and if a kid had an upset tummy on the day they're taking a test, like, your scores may not be great and may not be truly reflective of where they are. And oftentimes, it's when we send out staff surveys, and especially when they're anonymous, the people that aren't happy are the ones that are most likely to fill out the surveys. those that are really happy, they're, you know, hit or miss, and depending on how much data we're going to get from them. So surveys, and it's kind of tricky because you don't want to dig so deep into the analysis to really recognize. But yes, you're right. Like how they felt on that particular day, how their lives are like away from school. There's a lot of different variables that play into, you know, whether they're 7 or 17, how they feel like their school connects to them and they to their school. But I think what it ultimately does is really kind of help empower our counselors. It's like, yeah, we're doing well, but like if we want to really narrow in on some stuff, like let's maybe think of strategies that really increase senses of belongingness. Let's give them a try if we're not doing them now.
And
Yeah, please.
our counselor has started doing those small groups, like lunch groups or, you know, other groups throughout the day in response to not only this, but the other survey, depending on what questions were asked. She's created small groups of students in which to kind of nurture that sense of belonging or whatever question it may be that may pertain to. So our school counselor has been responsive to it. I also think when I'm, you know, I have, Dusty helps too, but I mainly work with attendance. And so I'm calling families, I'm talking to students. And so when I'm calling a student in and I'm saying, hey, you popped up on my, you know, weekly attendance roster for missing 4 days in the last, you know, couple weeks, what's going on? And so that gives me an opportunity to not only look at data like this, but then have that conversation with the student and think about ways that in my office I can even do that little small group and hopefully bolster a sense of belonging or connect with friends. Or so we've had different discussions in my office too. Just how do you make a friend? What does that look like? How do you keep friends? If you want a friend, you need to be a friend. And walking through like role playing in elementary school, you know, I pretend and then they pretend, and it's just back and forth. And so it gives me a window and a lens too into different ways I can serve students and with attendance or support Julie or come to BST and have a lens in that capacity too. So.
Okay. And then
Is it mine?
Yeah.
Okay. Just click right through?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, you said just click right through? Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so Creighton in mid-year, so in February, sent out an email and just said, hey, let's have a mid-year reflection on how BST is going. The question he asked was the effectiveness, what's the effectiveness of our communication channels back to our applicable staff in our schools? And then also the question was posed was, does the outcomes of BST justify the input? So the outputs that are happening, the inputs, meeting every week for, 60 to sometimes 80 minutes, once a week, is that justifying the time, or what are we getting out of that? So I, jotted a few notes down and began kind of looking at the board goal in conjunction with Creighton's questions, and kind of came to some ideas about how BST was really benefiting our elementary school. I said, I really felt like major behaviors that need more thinkers, the expertise of using our WSD, so being able to sit as a group once a week and being able to tap into not only the middle school and high school, but our partners, our WESD partners. And I just said it's helpful from a growth perspective when you're hearing about high school share or middle school share, when we're talking about families in our district, because they're all of our families, they're all of our students. So thinking about that global lens, when I think about, okay, I have I'm thinking of a specific kindergartner right now where I actually contacted Andrew and I said, Andrew, can you sit down with the older brother who seems to not be getting up his little brother, but coming to high school, but leaving the little brother at home? So can we partner together in that way? And I went up to the high school and we met with the older brother and I was like, okay, here's the scoop. And so it was a way to connect with the older sibling, but BST just gives you that ability to have that kind of overarching lens as to what's happening at high school, middle school, and and elementary, because we can be myopic in our thinking at times because there's so much happening that it's great for BST shares that, gives us that opportunity to do that. So he asked that question. And so then so I made my notes and came to BST ready, and we kind of, as a group, got together and said, well, how are we all feeling about BST and doing it once a week? Do we feel like it needs to be happening once a week, or could we do every other week, or how are we feeling? So what the team got together and decided was, while it's really purposeful and we appreciate the time being carved out and having a standing time, that perhaps we were going to try in responsiveness doing a slightly different proposal, which was having a standing meeting every other week, but then on the off week, having this new flexible shift to having an optional, it's an optional meeting, which means we could meet every week if we needed to. If something happened in one of the schools, we could adjourn and meet, but then on that off week, we could save time to actually meet as a building. So in our schools, so I can meet with Julie and Jerry, our social worker, and talk about things that are happening just at a school level, or debrief maybe what happens at BST, bringing that back down to a school level and saying, okay, how are we feeling about this? Who's tackling what? And then for me to be able to maybe talk with Dusty, my principal, about that opportunity, about what's happening. And then also it gives next week, for example, it's one of our off BST weeks, and I have a meeting with our school counselor and some of our middle school partners to talk about our outgoing fifth graders and maybe what our middle school partners may need to know about 504s and behavior support. So it just was a more flexible plan that we feel like encompasses the question of the effectiveness of our communication channels back to applicable staff. So we've done it the last month. I guess we started before spring break, I think. And I feel like that it's gone fairly well, and it's been nice because it's the optional, not the standing meeting, but the optional meeting is still on our calendar. So that's still blocked out if we need to. And it just gives us that flexibility. The flexibility is key, and we found it to be really a nice shift from doing BST every week to every other week, but also feeling like one of the things that I was like, I really appreciate that time every week just to be in partnership and community. But it does still provide that opportunity to do that if we need to, because we can call a meeting that Monday morning and say, hey, I have something really brewing at the school. I'd like to get together and meet still as a team. So we really appreciate the shift in our BST thinking. So to be responsive to staff and students and our district.
Okay,
That's
great.
it.
Yeah.
That's it for us.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only critique I have is my own emails. When you read it out loud, I sound like an emotionless
Aw.
robot. Like if you were to go, like, no, I wrote that twice. What is the output?
Are you AI? Okay, now we're on to goal 2. I can get out of this. That's goal 3 right there. And let's see here. Presenting goal 2 is going to be Kenya and Sandra.
You got the
My
pen.
word. Do you want the clicker?
You got the pen.
Sure. Does you need to come hold your hand?
Welcome to the other side.
Okay, so you want me to just jump in?
Sure.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about strategic goal number 2 is our equity team. So we meet about once a month. And then we have, it's myself and Sandra, Andrew, Dusty, Jerry, Mercedes, and Adelita. So we have a pretty good eclectic group of people that kind of bring all their scope to because some of the issues that we might pop up.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share our performance indicators to educate students, staff, and I can't read what it says next. And families about the rich history and diverse culture of service to help build a stronger sense of community. Implementation for measure 2A, each building will incorporate the shared vision, We Are Jervis, in the beginning of the school year, Assembly and GSD Equity Team will then produce 4 student videos, which those have been shared, and I'm sure that you recall seeing one. We are having Kelly, our Willamette ESD communications person, do professional videos. So those are coming out on a weekly basis, and they're amazing. I mean, I have taken the time to go over them, and even the elementary kids, they're just so amazing and natural at doing the videos.
So we just met, let's say 2 weeks ago or so, and we were like, okay, we got 10 more weeks and we have 10 more videos. So we decided we were gonna push out a video every week. So the idea was we would have the video, we would share it out to staff. Staff would hopefully share it and during advisory time. And then I think Dusty pushes it out to you guys. I'm not sure if he emails it to
Well,
you.
all the videos are on the Jervis Elementary School
Yeah.
YouTube page.
Oh,
But
Yeah.
I've been copying and pasting, emailing to family members and also staff.
Yes. So
I'll double check to make sure.
yeah. So and then I know that that secretaries have been asked to email it to parents as well. So we want to jump to the next
And
slide.
they're being shown in like
Yes.
Should we go ahead and
Yeah.
are we
Yeah.
able to click on this one, and that way you could get a feel of the elementary?
They're gonna be volume.
I hope so.
Maybe it might not be. No
What does that mean?
audio out.
Creighton, do you have this name?
Look, she's sweet.
Yeah, I'm a
Yes.
bumblebee.
Yes.
just so you guys don't like. I don't mean. All the
I
time.
feel like we tried to stop.
All the videos follow the exact same format. So if it's high school, middle school, elementary, it's all the same format. Same format.
So the idea behind the videos was how can we point out some of the similarities we have, even though we're, Latino or Russian or, farmer in town kid, whatever it is. What are the similarities that we have? What brought you to Jervis, and and why is it not gonna work?
No,
No,
it's
okay.
not good.
So we'll
So we'll
figure it
just-
out.
Okay, yeah, it's fine. And what, why the family's here and how long they've been here, and just kind of have more of a unifying idea about how bringing this all together. And at the end, you'll see they have like pictures of the family, and it says, just as an example of myself, my name is Fenya Amon. I am part of the Amon family. We are Jervis. But at the end of every video, it ends that way. So it's cute.
And
Yeah.
it's a unique way, to get the different cultures and the diversity that we have in our district. It's really interesting to learn about other kids, what they actually
Mhm.
do, how their family does just their culture at home. It's really cool to watch
Mhm.
because because I have seen the Hispanic or the Latino student ones, and I'm like, their lives might not be the same as my life, and because I was born in Mexico, and it's different. If you're born here, the lifestyle, just the values sometimes. So yeah, it's been a really neat thing to watch.
The videos are super short. They're only like 2 minutes. So
Okay, I don't know if it's gonna go to the next slide.
I think you're on YouTube still. So
How do we get out of YouTube?
How do you choose which children are the ones that are being
So,
filmed?
good question. So we just kind of did it on a whim for like, let's kind of, I was in charge of
Creighton.
the middle school building. So I thought, okay, I kind of want someone that I know that has lived here for a long time. Like I know their parents grew up here and their parents. Then I was like, okay, I really want someone. Well, Andrew got some Russian
like I said,
students. So then I was like, okay, we know that that's covered. So let me go and see if we can find a kid that like maybe has a generational farm here. And so it was just kind of random.
Okay.
What we found is happening right now is that kids are finding out that the videos are being done, and so they're like,
They want me
"Oh,
to-
yeah, I wanna interview, like,
I was
how come I can't be on, how come I can't?" Yeah, so they really, even Avery came home, my daughter Avery, and she's a second grader here, and so, she was like, "Mama, Juniper got to be on a video, she's like, can I be on a video?" I was like, "Well, we can ask," yeah, so, it's getting some popularity, I guess, so.
I mean, I think one of the big, for picking the kids, like, we all talked about this. Our biggest demographics are, white, right? Russian and Hispanic. And so we wanted to represent all three of those, you know what I mean? As
Mhm.
best we could.
Yeah.
With students that were willing to do the interview.
I was gonna say, see,
Yeah.
that's what now they're doing.
Yeah.
You'd think
Yeah.
that it would be
With
kind of
with
hard to.
students that
Uh-huh.
were
push.
willing to do it, and then like Kenya's saying, it's like, and now the kids are like, that's cool.
How come you didn't ask me to do it? I was like,
I'm a cool person.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's really cool. We can do like a first video.
No, it would be, but I know I'm scrolling a little bit, but I thought it would be fun to kind of do some with staff, like new staff, veteran staff. I thought that would be kind of cool. Staff that left and come back, right? So it'd be cool. So this is our list of kids that all the way out until June that they're going to be pushing out a video. It's on Jervis Elementary YouTube channel. So parents can look it up. There's also QR code. Correct. I can't remember. Dusty mentioned something about a QR code though. If, like, let's say a parent comes in here and there's a little flyer, they can scan the QR code and it'll take them straight to the YouTube channel and they can watch the videos just like.
So if I Google Jervis
Elementary.
YouTube on YouTube, it'll like
Yeah.
pop up.
Mhm.
That's cute.
Mhm.
Okay, so the next slide, our performance indicator 2B, the GSD equity team will train all district staff to use the GSD equity lens and facilitate it to use in various districts and buildings decision-making teams. And that has already been happening. I have not done it myself, but I think Kenya has already experienced that through one of the groups.
Yeah, Jerry Jimenez and I did it through our behavior support team. And so we kind of used the lens to kind of guide our meeting to see, it's like a soft start type of thing, like how is this really going to work? So I mean, that group of people are all about like, let's making sure this works. So they were easy. So, but yeah, it was good.
So the implementation measure 2B, the GSD equity team will train staff during in-service week, which we have done and presented to the staff. And will then facilitate it and use it in 3 different decision-making teams in each building by November 1st. And I think, that has already been accomplished.
Okay, so we are being advised to change some things. So, but we don't want to like get away from the work that's been done because really it's all about kind of like finding like our common ground. That's important. So we propose to you guys, have you guys take a look, that we change our name from equity team to our access team. So we're still like, we're not losing the work and like, showcasing our students, like, and showcasing how diverse we are and how similar we are, but we also don't want to be a target.
So what is the meaning for the access? Where does that come from? I mean, like,
all children in the community engaged successfully in school.
okay.
So the idea with the, you're all seeing what's happening at the federal level, right? So we're being advised to kind of repackage these things so that we don't create a target on our
It's a
budget.
trigger word.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so I think people would have a hard time arguing with access.
I think access is great.
Yeah. And yeah. So
Okay.
So as the access team, I will say that, we talked about how we thought we should present it to you guys, obviously get your guys' feedback, your thoughts, and then you guys can kind of see how we would go through the lens on the typical what we developed last year with those 5 questions. So, who does it impact? I mean, do we think that the name is going to impact anyone? Changing the name is going to impact anybody? If there is, who are the potential groups? Go to the next one. Sonia.
Okay.
Yeah. And then who has the opportunities and, you know, and included and, well, who has opportunities and who's included and not, and who's not included. I'm just gonna paraphrase that. So you guys can see our existing disparities ignored or worsened with the changing of the name. Was there any unintended consequences? And then whose voices are at the table and who's involved.
So you took this idea to the group, the committee, and was anyone, no, we have to keep it as equity, or?
I don't think it was, I don't think it was more like, this is ridiculous. I think everyone kind of sat there and silence for probably a good 15 seconds. Like, you know, we have some people on there that are like, you know, they almost like wanted to take a stand, right? But at the same time, and Dusty did do a very good job of just kind of having the team understand, like, look, we're still doing the work, then the name is not going to take away from what we're trying to accomplish, which is like community. So if this is going to be something that we can do to just, you know, not be a target, then I think it's a good idea, you know. And so,
and I think you know, Fenya's absolutely right, because it did take us a little bit, because our group really respects our opinions, our input, because we just come, you know, from such a wide range of experience, or, you know, family values. So that's, you know, the thing that we love about, you know, being part of this group, that we're very accessible to input. And it did take us a little bit to be able to say, okay, we want to make sure, you know, that we're not forgetting about anybody. And I think, you know, as soon as Dusty explained it, you know, we're not going to lose the work. It's only changing the title. I think the group felt way better than at the beginning, because it did take a few minutes, like Fenya says. Yeah.
And then I think initially when everyone like settled down, you just take the emotion out of it, right? And be like, look, let's think logically here why we're doing this. I think everyone was
Can I say
better.
one thing?
Sure.
I'm the pain. I mean, it's every meeting we've had, really the big thing is like, I don't know what it is about Jervis that makes it special, but the people that have had the privilege of going to school here or working here or growing up here in this tiny little town between Salem and Woodford, like we want to encompass, you know what I mean, our entire community. And so that whole message, like, we are Jervis, right? Like, we want that to be powerful and like encompass all the different people.
And not, you know, just extend to the students, but we're just dreaming big. And I'm sure, you know, down the road we'll share, you know, all the dreams that we have been talking about, you know, just going community wise, and not just
Want a shirt?
yes, we want to share it all.
And eventually hopefully get community members like, you know, we're like, the post office could have a sign that says we are Jervis, or
Yeah.
you know,
I
Jervis
love
Market.
it.
Yeah.
I think we need to start a movement.
I know, yeah. And so the team is excited, but you know, anything that's good takes time. So
Yeah.
hopefully those are gonna be our next goals moving forward for the next
We
year.
purchased a giant billboard that we're gonna put in the middle of
No.
town.
No, we did not.
And you're only gonna let the kids that were on the video on that.
Yeah.
Knew it.
Like I'm saying, like the long term, so like that's our
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, one of the things, you know, that we've been discussing is just putting like a big, you know, bulletin boards in every building. That way we, you know, we have like a QR code, and, you know, when parents coming to a building, maybe a new family, we're showcasing our students, and they're able to just, you know, do the QR code and watch the videos. So we're, you know, that's one of our plans for the future, just to have, you know, something like that in all of the buildings.
We're already writing the goals for next year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, kind of. Yes, yeah. And then our last slide, that was just kidding. Dusty added this at the end, which, by the way, Dusty put this slideshow together for us with the Dusty, but I thought it was appropriate. I'll let you guys read. Yeah, bro.
I saw her in concert.
Did you? That's awesome. Yeah. And we want our kids to all have access to things, you know, to things that other kids from other districts have. And that's kind of at the end of the day, our goal. So.
And I think, that's the power, like Andrew says, that our group is always thinking about every student. We just want to make sure that we capture.
And respecting
yeah.
and where they're coming from, not their background. We're not a blank slate. We gotta respect where everyone is coming from. So, any questions or?
How does the board feel about changing the name of that?
I personally approve it. I like it.
Anybody opposed?
Well, can you go back to the slide that says the full thing again?
The which one?
Like the
Of
first.
what, of access to.
Oh, I think it's. Test it.
I don't think that should be offensive to anybody. I think it includes it all, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next goal is goal three.
Here we go.
Okay, thank you. All right, good evening, everybody. I have a lot of slides, so I'll go through them quickly. So, a warning. So I was asked to talk about goal 3, so just very quickly. This is the overall district strategic plan goal 3. Link the district's preschool through grade 12 curriculum to state standards. Select and apply the best instructional strategies, and use assessment to measure student progress and adjust instruction. And the individuals responsible for this were Dandy, Bonnie, Cindy Smith, Elizabeth Flores, and myself. Specifically, I'm going to talk about 3B, which is performance indicator, which is RACES, and RACES stands for restate, answer, cite, explain, summarize, as an instructional strategy to help all students use content-specific vocabulary when speaking and writing so they achieve grade level standards in core subject matter. So basically, we're trying to have from K through 12. Obviously, it will get more difficult as you go, and I'll have some examples for you, but to when they get a question, that they know that they need to restate the question, answer the question, cite out of the reading, explain where they got those cites and why they used those, and then at the end, summarize. So starting with the elementary school, first of all, I'll let you know, I went over on Thursday and I met with Stephanie So and Cindy Smith, who are the two TOSAs, math and language arts, specifically mostly talking to Cindy. And then I kind of walked around rooms and kind of snuck in because they were at lunch and took some pictures. But this is an example of RACES that I found all over the school. This is a little more basic than what you'll see that the elementary and high school has. So I'm going to stand up here real quick. So you can see vertical, horizontal, so they come individually, however the teacher wanted to put them up. So restate the question and then gives examples how to do that. Answer your question, cite text evidence, explain what it means, and sum it up. And this is important because this shows, so it gives kind of some prompts for those younger students to use. So that just kind of shows what it looked like in the classrooms. And then in talking to Cindy in particular, they've been working a lot on RACES and kind of mapping this out for their staff. And what they said is for first and second grade, we would like to see them do R and A. So restate the question and answer the question. Let's just start with that. Beginning and mid third grade, they want them to then include citing the evidence. Where's that evidence found in the reading? And then by the end of third and fourth grade, they want to explain why they used that. And then by fifth grade, they want to add to sum it up. Third through fifth grade are using it regularly in their writing, is what I was told. That it's a little bit of a struggle for first and second graders, especially first graders are just barely starting to write letters and starting stuff. But by 3rd through 5th grade, they're using it a lot in all the different subjects. So they have actually gone through and made exemplars, fancy word in education, examples of what it should look like. So we're not going to go through and read these, but this is what ideally, if once we've used this for a few years, we're hoping this is what the 1st graders are going to be able to do. This is what the 2nd graders are going to be able to do. Notice it gets longer and longer. So there's your prompt, there's your answer. 4th grade, we're getting longer. And then 5th grade, we're getting up to pretty much 5 paragraphs. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit more here in just a second. So the feedback that I asked, I said, what's your staff saying about this? They said very quickly, 100% positive. They really like it because it gives the teachers, but more the students, a clear focus. I saw it teaching middle school. I have taught 5th grade, but a lot of times students will get a prompt and it's the first thing you hear is like, I don't know where to start. Where this gives you a place to start. You start with the A, restate your question. And so that just becomes a routine. And it seems they said that because it gives them a place to start, they're then able to move into the rest of writing the paragraph or the paragraphs. It definitely organizes the paper. It is very a form that they're following, but the form works. And that really helps the students. Because again, you heard over and over again, what do I write next? What do I do next? Well, this tells you, you just follow this form. They are seeing improvement, especially in 4th and 5th grade. They started introducing this last year, much more intensely this year, and the staff really, really like it. They're seeing that this is really making a difference. I've been in this district a long time. Writing has always been a struggle in this district. It has for a really long time. So it's really nice to see this and see, oh my gosh, I think we found something that is helping. It's helping both teachers and students. So what's next for the elementary? They're starting to ask now, we need those grade level rubrics made up so that when rubric is a, I don't know if you guys have seen them, they're blocks. And so you can look at like organization and it will have like a 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you get a 4 on it, then you're doing great. You have it organized. It has beginning, a middle, and ending. If you're down at a 1, it kind of jumps around and it's kind of a jumbled mess. So it really lays out where are you struggling, where are you doing well. So they really want those grade level rubrics made out so that there's consistency in how we're looking at the different classes, different grade levels. They're starting now because they've used it now. This is the 2nd year. And I went around to my middle school teachers and said, now's the time to be doing this. Start pulling those exemplars from students. It's great to have something you got off the computer or something a teacher did, but that's also not really realistic. What are the students doing? Cindy asked me a question, said, just in my opinion, 3 is, just to let you know, 3 is passing. 4 is a wow. So 2 is almost there. She said, what do you think we should have? Should we have examples of all of them? And I said, personally, I don't think you need examples of 1s. 1s are easy. You don't need an example of that. Most of our students are honestly at 2. And I think if you show them a 3, it's not a big difference. It may be adding 1 sentence. It may be adding 1 site that they went back in. Oh my gosh, it was right there. All I had to do was add that. Yeah. And I think showing the students a student work, it doesn't take much to go from you're almost there to you got it. And then, oh my gosh, add 1 more thing and you're at a wow. I think that's going to blow their minds because right now, I think 3s and especially 4s are like, oh, there's no way I can do that. Yeah, you can because you're right here. You need to add 1 more thing and you're going to be right there. So that's the big thing is they're going to be having their teachers keep a lookout for those 2s, 3s, and 4s. Make sure you're saving those, take their name off of them, but use those in lessons next year. The one thing Cindy also brought up is focus more on expository and argumentative papers. Expository is like a research paper, and argumentative is kind of what it sounds like. You're trying to get somebody to go with whatever you want them to do. You're arguing for something. Because she said right now we kind of focus at the beginning on narrative, which is like a made up fantasy fiction story, but that's not what state testing does. State testing focuses on expository and argumentative. She's like, we need to flip that so that we're doing this, so that they're comfortable with this, get that state testing done in April. We can do narrative after that, because that's not, state testing doesn't ask you to do narrative. So that was one thing that she brought up. Middle school. So middle school, this is the poster that is around in every single classroom. So very similar. You have your races. It says restate the question, answer the question, cite the evidence, explain the evidence, and then summarize your response. So similar, just a little bit higher level. Middle schoolers, if you put something up that looks too kiddish, if we use the other thing, they would have immediately shut down. So you really do have to watch what you put up. Is it something more advanced, but not too advanced? So implementation of races at the middle school. So it's used extensively in language arts, science, and history classes. They use it all the time. All grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th are using races. I'm hearing those terms all the time when I'm in the classrooms. In science, they use them for their final and formal writing. They take notes like bullet points, etc. But when they ask them to say, okay, now take that information, then they use the races. It is used for all written assignments and tests in language arts, assessments and open-ended questions in history it is used. And in math, they even use it for story problems, to break down the story problems. What were they asking you to do? Restate that. So struggle a little bit more in math, but it is also used in math. The S now includes summarizing the response. That is used more in 7th and particularly 8th grade. We're looking more for that RACE in 6th grade. It is seen as a one-paragraph response to a question. So if you remember, if you went back, you looked at the 4th and 5th grade, it had multiple paragraphs. And that is something that I think came out in this, is I think there's a disconnect here. So that was something that's coming up that I want the 5th grade teachers and the 6th grade teachers, along with Cindy Smith, who is the TOSA, myself. I think we need to get together. What do we really mean when we say races? Because the middle school and high school is under the impression it's one paragraph. You get a question about a novel, you're asking something, well, why did so-and-so do this? They're using races, all parts in one little paragraph. That was not what we saw in the exemplars for the middle school. So for the elementary, sorry. For middle school, and why I put this up here, this is on Amanda Braswell's board. She's used races for many years, and that's where the idea first came from. They use something called TIQA, T-I-Q-A. This is more for that 5-paragraph paper that they're doing. So topic sentence, introduce a quote, you have a quote, and analyze the quote. This is used for those 5-paragraph answers. This is used for a 1-paragraph answer. So I sent a message to Dusty to say that day that we have to make up because of snow, we need to see, can we have a half an hour, 45 minutes, where the 5th grade and 6th grade can get together. We need to talk about what does races look like, because I have some examples coming up. Here's what differences we've seen in the middle school. Students are responding in full sentences, both verbally and writing. They never used to do that. You were lucky if you got a full sentence, even without teachers reminding them they're doing it, which is a big deal. Students are much better at the R and A and C portions. The E and the S are a little bit of a struggle, that evidence and summary. Students are checking their work prior to turning it in. They're looking for those races. Do I have all the parts? It has improved the use of full sentences, transition, quotes, and citing of evidence. And students are used to hearing that same verbiage in all their classes. They're hearing it in science and history, and they're hearing it everywhere. They're very used to that terminology. So here, and I have an example of it. This is, again, Amanda Braswell, amazing teacher. You don't know who she is. This is something she is using as a form for the students. So she gave this to them. This is So it says the main conflict in the scholarship jacket, and what type of conflict is it? So she literally, and the students write on this paragraph here, restate the question as a sentence or statement, answer all parts of the question. There's your R and your A. C, cite 1 or 2 examples from what you read, quote directly or paraphrase and explain. Again, using that high terminology also, right? She didn't say write your own, put it in your own words. She said paraphrase, because again, we're trying to up that vocabulary. Pick one below, so she's giving you kind of some sentence frames to start with. And then E, explain your answer more, explain your evidence and how it supports your answer. Choose one of those to follow. So the students use this as a template. And then this is a grading. This is a small rubric. This is an example of a rubric she used. This one it happens to be for 6th grade. So same thing. This is what this came from. She's telling you in the textbook, page 198. So to get a 5, you had to have 5 plus full sentences, all parts of race, completed clearly and well, and used a quote. And then it went on down to 1 answer attempted, but did not restate question or follow the race model. So this is an example of how then she graded it. And then this one, because it did not print very well, this is one that she graded. This is a 6th grade example. And notice it's very different than what we saw the 4th and 5th graders doing. The example, anyway, I should say, the exemplar that we were given from 4th and 5th grade. This is what they saw for 6th grade. So the question was, who or what does Gary Soto blame for his bad luck? And then I'll leave this for you guys to read it. But it met all 5. They filled the R, A, C, and E. S is not there, but they did R, A, C, and E. I'm going to go on where you're looking at this. This is the 7th grade one. So notice it does get a little more difficult. She teaches both 6th and 7th grade. Who did Madam C.J. Walker put in charge of her Indianapolis headquarters? And here's the second part. And why was that an unusual choice? She does tell you where to look. Again, here's a 5. You have all parts. And so this is the answer that a 7th grader gave. So this person got all the points for answering the 7th grade one. This one printed out, copied a little better when I was trying to do it. One thing that Amanda wanted you guys to know is this is not a tag student. Both of these were not tag students. These were your average student in your classroom. And at the beginning of the year, barely got a sentence out of them. And now they were doing this. And in her opinion, these were, they both got 8 out of 8 points. They got the total points for it. So huge improvement on their writing using race. So suggestions and changes for next year is coordinate covering specific writing styles. Again, we want to make sure that they get that expository argumentative towards the beginning of the year because getting ready for state testing, and then we can do narrative or whatever later on. More practice finding and citing evidence. They have trouble doing that. Standardize the rubric for grading races. Make sure that if we have 2 teachers teaching 7th grade, that they're grading them very similarly. Student exemplars to use as examples. Lessons using race and student papers with overall grades of 2s and 3s. How do you get to a 3? And then what I put is meet with the 5th grade team, Cindy, 6th grade team to be on the same page because their definition of using race is quite different than ours. So is it one paragraph versus multi-paragraphs? So I think we need to make sure that that's consistent across the board. High school. High school also uses the same poster. Implementation, theirs is a little different. I went around and spoke with staff about what they used. What I'm finding there is they don't use races as much as the middle school and elementary do. Science, they use a CER, claim, evidence, and reasoning is what they're using. The English language, I talked to a couple. They have been using writing strategies for years, but not races, but very similar. Freshmen have been struggling with using this and are just starting to follow through with full sentences, their thoughts about the question and correct punctuation. So it's taken a while for them, even though they have been told last year and were using races last year. Upper grades, much better because they're used to citing and using evidence. History also used writing strategy for years. They are changing over to using races. Sophomores, the top students use it consistently without being told to do it. But the other ones that struggle a little bit have to be reminded all the time or they don't use it. The Spanish teacher, I spoke to her. She said the native speakers and higher level Spanish classes also have a writing strategy, but it's not races that they use. And the alternative teacher uses races occasionally. Students will use the R and A, but not the C and E portion. He said he has used a strategy like this for years because he was an English language teacher before this. He's also familiar with races and knows that it's really good. So the one thing I'm seeing with the high school is we need some consistency. So these were writing examples. This right here, this was in a history class, and notice it is one paragraph. So this is right on, this is races. This was something that was used specifically. This was in her classroom. These just happened to be in the hallway. It said student writing. These were more like research papers, but I took a picture of it anyway because they were pretty impressive. But this is very much races in one paragraph using all the RACES. So suggestion for the high school is need high school exemplars using examples. According to one person I was talking to, the history teacher, she said she tried to find exemplars online. She found tons for the elementary, but couldn't find anything for especially even 11th and 12th grade, the higher grades. What are they supposed to look like? They need student exemplars, especially 2s and 3s, to be consistent with using races terminology in all the classes, but that's definitely not happening. And need posters in some of the classrooms. Some of them had them, some of them did not, because they weren't using race. So in conclusion, elementary and middle school teachers really like it. 4th through 8th grade teachers are seeing improvement in writing using it. Students in elementary and middle school are hearing the same terminology and being asked to do the same thing, only more extensively as they move up in grade. Cindy Smith, the TOSA, 5th grade teachers and ELA middle school teachers are meeting at the end of this year to say what should it look like for next year, what are we doing so we're consistent. Students are using races, will translate better to better writers in high school. And overwhelmingly, staff do want to keep it. They do like it. We'll focus on getting student exemplars, using exemplars next year for teaching lessons, and they do believe it's a great strategy for our writing. That's it. Phew. That was a lot, sorry. But I wanted you guys to know what was happening in all 3 buildings. So.
I love that you gave us examples as well. That really helps me, A, to know what the heck's going on in there, and B, that they're being responsive and actually using it, especially with the quotes. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so important to catch this early so that we can just continue to build on it.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
I love it. I don't like the acronym. That's weird, but
It is.
right?
It is. And when you Google it to try to get a poster, you got to watch what you put in. Because,
Yeah.
no, your writing strategy. Oh, now I got what I'm looking for. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great strategy. So
Yeah.
it's great. Thank you.
So thank you. Sorry it was so long.
That was great. No, that was good.
Thank you guys.
So that's the last update for your working session, because the bond is always every session. So you can close this portion of the meeting and we can take a 5-minute bathroom break or whatever.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
We are out of session.
Are you? Oh. Where's that? Yes, yeah. Thank you. It was awesome. This was so good.
I want to know how they made that right. faux chicken. Oh, good. Like really good.
Yeah.
Try it.
Good. Karen, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, but we can't hear you, so I don't know
Oh.
why this is not.
It answered the sound.
It's the microphone.
Okay, what do you mean? My microphone's wrong? Okay, I'll check that. They were having problems.
Why
would I not be able to?
We're families. Oh, good. No, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like that.
It's really awkward when I have to do it in school and I have
I'm not
to edit
hearing
my
Volume's all the way up.
Microphone.
Yes,
I do. I do.
So that gives us an option other than Samsung.
What about this one?
Yeah, I mean, that should be the same as the Samsung, but give it a try.
And that.
Says that, it says it's working.
Try one more just to see it. I don't know if that gives us any.
That's what we do.
I'm gonna put it back to this one. About,
Is this thing on? Well, you should hear us.
Yeah.
So,
So let's see. Audio. So this is even letting me change
But I don't know.
the volume. Test, test. Yeah, so it's definitely registering our voice because.
Oh, you like that sound here.
I just don't know. Mhm. Just be unmuted.
Okay, right?
You're unmute. Still can't hear me?
This doesn't.
Just call. I'll just call Dan.
Yeah, I'll make that suggestion. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
There's no volume settings on my.
so I'll.
What's happening? You can't hear her.
Hi, Karen.
I'm thinking I'm just gonna mute my computer and
Okay,
just talk through the phone. Let me mute
Okay.
it, though.
okay, so do you want to stay on the line right now?
Yeah, I gotta put
Or
this
you
down.
can,
I'm just gonna X out of the whole meeting, so I'll just, any questions have to come through the phone, otherwise it's making all kinds of different noise. We're coming through the,
is that better? Okay. Okay, so, we're gonna have Scott go first in the order of the meeting, just because it's here forever. And so, do you want me to, did you log off completely?
We haven't gone into session.
Okay, all right.
But I was bad.
And then just call me back. Okay, all right.
Well, I told Dandy it's crazy that we have you at the end. So we should move
I
on.
appreciate that.
Yeah. And maybe if we could just do that on the
Regular.
regular one, that'll help you.
But again, I got
You guys, yeah, you guys.
better dinner than I would have gotten anywhere else.
So I'm gonna call this in order. In session now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't think we have anybody signed up. And do you want to do your announcement?
Yes, so, it's Licensed Employee Appreciation Week, May 5th to the 9th, and you have a resolution there to read later, which you can do after Scott talks. And then a reminder, April 24th is Budget 101 at 5 p.m. It'll be in person and via Zoom. And so, Karen always does a really good job. It's about an hour long, just reminding everybody about how the budget is set up, the structure of it. And then I believe the first budget meeting is May 7th. Is that right, Sandra?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's May 7th. Hopefully the first and only budget meeting. And so you can Zoom in if you need to. The idea is if we have to have a second one, we can have it before the regular board meeting starts on the 15th. So those are all of my quick announcements. So why don't we go ahead and have Scott come up? He's got 2 items with regard to bond projects that he can address.
All right, thank you. So which is first on the agenda?
You could go with the church.
Okay. Right.
Site prep.
Okay, so the Board of Directors approved award to CSD Council for the turf project last year. And related to that is the need to prepare the subgrade for the turf, which is not in that initial approval that you provided, as well as replacing the sports lights. And you may have heard that one of them burned out and had a fiery death. So, so this is to try and address both those issues at one time, is get the field turf done, and while you're mobilized with the equipment, replace the poles at the same time. And then also take the spoils and try and expand your existing play areas. Right now, you've got a soccer field, and then it sort of drops off to that sort of goat field. This work to reduce costs, we're going to keep the soils on site, and we're going to expand that soccer field so that we can turn it. And then we'll have additional practice area. So rather than hauling it off and have to pay to haul off that dirt. So we put that out for public bid, the subgrade work, and we received 3 bids, and the low one is identified in your packet, and it sort of, it was what it was. And so we wanted to keep it within your overall Frontier count, and it has all the work combined. We also incorporated about a $75,000 contingency just in case you run into soft soils or other things underground we have to deal with. So the request to the board is to draw that much from the Frontier account, again, understanding that that $75,000, if not spent, would go back into that account. But the 3 contracts that you've awarded, or the 1 contract you've awarded CSD Council, the 2 we're requesting tonight is for KME Excavating, who is local, and then Musco Lighting, which provides about 99% of the sports lighting in the region. So if we can get approval on those 2 awards, then we'll proceed with the next step, which is getting the lighting ordered, and we'll have a pre-construction meeting that coordinates between the CSD Turf Council and this new excavator to make sure that that excavation is done precisely per their criteria. And that excavation would start, I believe, May 28th. Right, so the day right after Memorial Day is the first day we can get on. So they'll put up appropriate protective barriers, and then they'll start with the excavation, which will take about 6 weeks. Then the turf would start the 3rd week in July and finish up the 2nd week in August, about a month. And the turf is already fabricated and ready to come this way.
And what is their plan for the practice soccer field to keep it from having critters and holes?
Well, the dirt that we'll be taking out, because we have to excavate for the synthetic turf, that will be spread out to fill the low spots, and then also expand that area because it starts to drop off as well. We'll have about roughly equivalent to a foot deep and the size of a soccer field worth of dirt. So we'll be able to take care of those existing potholes and critter holes and things. So, yeah, yes, and then we're going to coordinate with the facilities department to do the seeding and some of the other components as well, so that we're not adding on to that cost. So, and and they've actually agreed to work with us on the sod as well. Most excavators don't want the sod, but they are going to help us deal with that too.
Lots of questions, why Scott is here.
No, I mean, it's a big number. I wasn't quite expecting that.
quite to that extent.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It is.
And
We did have 6 bidders that showed up at the pre-bid walkthrough, and 3 then turned in bids. And that number is actually, I know it's a huge number. It's over 500,000 just for K&E, just for the subgrade preparation. It does include underground storm drainage system as well, and rock, and all, so that 12, 15 years from now, when you have to replace the turf, you don't have to redo that subgrade. It's basically what we call a re-rug. Pull that up, put the new one down. But it is a large initial investment that is in line with what I've been seeing priced recently down in Elmira for Ridge School District, and what we did last year in Centennial School District in East Portland. I mean, give or take about 50,000, but it is a big number. I know that you were initially targeting 600,000 and change for the turf, and I think there was a hope that there would be folks that would want to donate, but it is such a massive job. There just aren't, people can't take on and absorb that cost. There's a lot of rock too. I mean, that rock itself costs. Where we mitigated the cost again was trying to leave the dirt on site, so we didn't have to haul it off and pay for hauling that out. So,
I guess my question would be, in 15 years, you're saying we have to replace the turf, right? So,
About that, yeah.
okay, how much is that gonna cost in 15? I mean, approximately, what's turf? I mean, how much is the turf costing anyway? I mean, I know that part of it's being paid for by a grant, but if you were to replace the turf part, how much in today's, I mean, I know.
well, yeah, your turf contract right now is 600. I think I listed there on the sheet.
$587,000.
587,000. Thank you. So that is today's dollars for just providing a turf and installing a turf. That's what CSD Council is charging, and that's all that they are doing. They're not doing anything beyond just turf. So to re-rug would be to pull that up and put new down. The pulling up part is fairly nominal in terms of the cost, but they do have to haul that off and dispose of that. So you're probably adding on to that 587, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 20 grand to pull it up, just the labor to pull it up, and then the cost to haul it off. So that's in today's dollars, how much that'll increase. Turf hasn't increased at the same inflationary rate as a lot of other materials, lumber, steel, etc. There is still some increase just because there's a petroleum component in terms of synthetic turf. But
We'll be able to also rent the field out a lot more.
Yeah.
So that was my next question. I mean, okay, so if you're gonna run out that field, I'm assuming you're gonna create a contingency fund
Mhm.
that you're gonna pay for this. I mean,
Yeah.
in 15 years, I want to, we need to have the funds there.
Yeah.
And not pulling from anywhere else, because you're basically taking all the funds from Frontier Charter, and there's
At
not,
the,
I mean,
so Karen and I talked, and at the end of next year, so you've already paid $310,000 basically. So, and this projected budget amount includes, sorry, I can't see it. Includes includes that. So we've already paid $300,000.
right.
So we'll be left in money in Frontier Charter, even if they have to use the contingency, with just over $300,000. You'll still have $300,000 in that account. And remember that we built that money in the last 5 years. So what I would recommend is that, yes, as we are renting the field, we kind of get a handle on that. I mean, there's a yearly maintenance piece to that where you had hire someone to come in and basically fluff the carpet, right? So we'll use the facility rental piece to pay for that, but then also projecting out like how much money did we use to spend and time and maintenance on the field, lining that. So we knew it would cost us $5,000 every year to maintain that grass field. So every year we put that aside amount. We put aside from the facility rentals. And then I would also recommend that just taking out a Frontier Charter, $25,000 a year every year we know is going towards turf replacement until you hit that $800,000 mark. In 2034, your loan for the middle school expires. That's $245,000. So you could have 2 years of payments that you automatically set aside for that. You'll be fine.
that was my
Yeah.
concern. I mean.
Yeah, definitely
because-
putting a plan in place in terms of how do we plan for the future.
Right,
Mhm.
right. And another thing is just knowing that everything's really uncertain with budget stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm guessing every other school district seems to be cutting staff.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Here, we'll talk about that later in the meeting, but here's where I'm at with this. We could just bag this and not do any of it. If the budget goes sideways because of federal cuts, it would not even be, it would be enough for us to keep running for a year and a half. And then we'll have no turf, and I still will have to cut staff and right size. So we've already, Karen and I have already been working about how do we address potential federal budget hacking that is least impactful to students at the very beginning.
oh no, I mean, I think.
Yeah, I get it.
I think this will be a huge benefit to the
Mhm.
community. I just want to make sure that the money's there in 15 years.
Yeah, it
And
will
that
be.
we're not going to do this and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, and you'll get it to last if you do proper maintenance. I mean, like anything else that requires maintenance, this is a maintenance free, as was mentioned. It kind of looks like those vehicles that pick up golf balls, kind of looks like that. It sort of kind of chills the rubber, if you will. And then you should do an annual safety test every July-ish, and they do 2 different tests. They do a GMAX, which basically bounces a thing that looks like an elbow or a knee, and then they measure that bounce. Then they do something called an HIC test, which is more shaped like a head. They do a head concussion test. And both those things, if you're doing your maintenance, twice a year, it should handle
Is
that
there
fine.
a warranty on the turf bill?
There is an 8-year material and 2-year installation. And as was noted, you paid that particular entity $300,000, and they've made the material, or at least, before we made that payment, we said, can you send me photos that show you? Well, I saw turf with plastic around it and labeled that said Jervis. So I'm going to take them at faith that it was ours. So.
Yeah. You guys ready for motion or?
Well, it's an action item later.
Oh.
So, and then Scott
Yeah.
also wanted to talk about the roofing, bid, which is a separate, attachment on your table seat.
So we opened bids. Well, let me rephrase that. Kirby Nagelhout, who you hired as your CMGC in January, they opened bids, because the way that this works is now everything's under them, and so then they publicly bid out all the trade work. So we knew we wanted to do at least a portion of our roofs this summer, and because of permit expediency and the like, it made sense to do that. Plus, just your high school gym can't go another year without a roof. So yeah. And surprisingly, your elementary really can't either. So we are re-roofing about 80% of that elementary school. So the bids for the elementary came in on the 8th, and we received 4 bids for that. And the low bid was within our budget, even a little bit below our budget. So we were excited. Then the 10th came, and there was the high school bid, the high school roof. High school roof did not come in within our budget. It came in much higher. So we are meeting with the contractor, the low bid roofer, and the designer to say what are ways that we can extend our dollars. And so what we're looking at doing is we'll probably revise the scope and execute a portion now, and then we will bid out the rest of the bond work between now and the end of this of the calendar year, and then re-examine how much more roofing we can do in summer 26 or summer 27. Right now, you have a lot of high risk activity because you haven't bid much. And so our recommendation is do the worst roofs this summer, which is definitely the gym and definitely the front classroom wing closest to the parking lot. So what we also bid was the classroom wing furthest from the parking lot. We're going to hold off on that one because that one's not bad, with the exception of about 4 drains that we're going to tie in and make sure that they drain better than they are right now. And then that should be fine, according to the envelope inspection consultant. We did get a bid also for the cafeteria roof. That one's not nearly as bad as the other roofs that we're doing. But it warrants needing replaced. We're waiting on that until we hear next month whether or not we get the seismic rehab grant. The seismic rehab grant is for your high school cafeteria. If you get that grant, which is a $2.5 million grant, it includes a re-roof. So we don't want to award that ahead of finding that out here in the next month. And if that's the case, then that will go through a design and construction process, and that cafeteria will be remodeled for seismic in summer of 26 and get re-roofed at that time. So anyway, so yes, so what we're recommending to the board is award to Atlas Roofing for the elementary project because they come in on budget. And as we're still negotiating with the low bidder, we're recommending a $1.3 million cap to say, okay, we won't go above our $1.3 million budget. We're going to negotiate once we, make the award, then we'll authorize Kirby to proceed with that. But we want to, unfortunately, they couldn't give me the number today, and they opened it Thursday, and they're in those negotiations. And so I said, well, I will take to the board a cap. If they approve a cap, then we'll just negotiate within that cap.
What are we projecting for the high school roofing project?
The 1.3. Yeah. For summer of 25.
So this is action item 8.4 later on. Okay. Any questions for Scott?
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
You guys might want to go ahead and just approve the resolution for the licensed employee recognition week. That was under the announcement section.
Resolution acknowledging May 5th through the 9th, 2025 Teacher Appreciation Week in the Jervis School District Number 1. Whereas teachers make public schools great, and whereas teachers work to open students' minds to ideas, knowledge, and dreams, and whereas teachers keep American democracy alive by laying the foundation for good citizenship, and whereas teachers fill many roles as listeners, explorers, role models, motivators, and mentors, and whereas teachers continue to influence us long after our school days are only memories. Now, therefore, we, the members of the Board of Directors for the Jervis School District Number 1, hereby declare our appreciation to our teaching staff and acknowledge May 5th through the 9th, 2025 to be Teacher Appreciation Week. Be it further resolved that we urge administrators, teachers, parents, students, and others from our community to join us in recognizing the dedication and hard work of these individuals. By resolution of the Board of Directors this 15th day of April 2025. And thank you to all our teachers.
Yes. Okay, we have approval of minutes.
Nobody had any changes. Somebody want to make a motion? And that's for regular and executive session, March 20th.
So move that the Jervis School District Number 1 Board of Directors approves the minutes from April 15th, 2025 school board meeting. Dated March 20th. Is it March? Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, I was reading it the wrong one. Jervis School District, meeting minutes, March 20th, 2025. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay.
Signed up for public tour. There's no one online.
Nope.
There's no students. There's no students. Oh, it's Dr. Hell. Orange is dipping down there. Probably the shortest meeting where you spent the most money ever. Right.
I wasn't
So
looking
true.
forward to it when I saw that.
Yeah. There was
I was
Good evening again, everybody. So just kind of sharing it, I put some stuff in the board packet and I just kind of wanted to touch base on just a few of those things. We already kind of talked with in goal 1, kind of what we're doing with the BST and the counselors. But I think it's just kind of important to note that we're doing it as kind of a trial run, but really the idea is like on those off weeks in which the counseling team is not meeting directly, there's still a placeholder on the calendar for them. And there's also a calendar placeholder for their building administrators. And so the idea is on those weeks where we're not getting together as a counseling group, those counselors can just go knock on the door of their building principal and say, hey, I need to catch you up on these students. And the idea is that I have requested to the building administrators that they do everything they can to not schedule something during, now if there's an emergency, of course, but they try to leave that time open for their counselors and social workers so that if they need to get caught up on building level stuff, they have that time kind of set aside. And if they don't need to use up all that time, then school counselors can get together at building team level, or the elementary and middle school teams can get together, and we're just trying to use the best use of that time so that it's not just every single week them talking among themselves, but also giving them a chance to just kind of get back into their buildings with time to kind of debrief. So we'll see how it goes. And if we need to shift back to a more regular schedule, we will, but hopefully this works out really well. The Capaces that we're partnering with, they are a leadership institute out of Woodburn. They primarily work with Woodburn High School. They've got several years of working with Woodburn High School. And one of the really unique things that they do is they will pull in students who are willing to work with them. And they typically would identify as either under migrant or immigrant status. And they work with those Woodburn students to help mentor them and help them think through what is it that they want to do with life, whether it's post-secondary education, whether it's right into career and readiness workforce, things like that. And they really help work with them so they understand what it is they have to navigate to start that, and then what to expect once they begin that process. And through this immigrant and refugees grant that we got, we were able to reach out to Capaces and say, we would like to be able to have you work with our students as well, even if it's for a limited duration of time. And so starting this week, I think it's on Wednesdays, we have at least one of our staff members from the high school, and we have around 10 to 12 students from the high school who've all said that they commit to doing this for six weeks. And they're going to take the bus right up to the Capaces location. They're going to have food. They're going to get together. They're going to kind of go through all these things themselves. And at the very end, there's going to be a celebration with parents and other folks to just kind of uplift them and the work that they did. But I think it's a really neat opportunity. And we genuinely hope that the opportunity extends into the next school year and beyond, once we can kind of get a sense of like what it is that they do and what would it cost the district, and just kind of play with those kind of variables. Because I think another thing that they do is something called Turno, which is it's essentially a leadership club that is meant to empower our Hispanic Latino community students, and especially those that don't necessarily feel like they have a voice within just the general student body and general leadership opportunities, like to give them an opportunity to do things. And so, yeah, we're really excited about what we're going to do with them. Also with the immigrant grant, we're beta testing right now, but they're really, really cool. And so potentially for the next board meeting, we'll have some that you can try out, but they are earbuds that connect Bluetooth to a tablet, and the tablet just sits on the teacher's desk, and the teacher will just talk as they normally do with a normal cadence. The tablet picks up what the teacher is saying through the tablet's microphone, and then through Bluetooth does real-time interpretation to the earbud. And it's almost instantaneous, and it's like 98, 99% accurate, because it's not based on just like a set database of words. It's AI driven. And so it's constantly like updating and revising itself and playing with language and all those kind of things. And so really, really clever. And the immediate application is obviously for our newcomers and our L1s that are still monolingual in a language other than English. Like when they arrive, like they can have access to this and they can hear the teacher teaching in real time in their native language. So there's not really this all of a sudden this breaking of them learning. They'll be able to pick it up. And then the idea is that you would, just like any other tool, as their language acquisition in English increases, that their dependency on devices kind of decreases. But it would allow them, those students that show up right off the bat that speak nothing but Spanish or Ukrainian, that they would be able to pick it up immediately, which is really, really cool. But other applications down the road is obviously for like IEP needs or things like that, that if you have interpretation needs or, you know, community events or things like that, that if we can kind of brainstorm how to keep the equipment, you know, safe and whatever, like we'd be able to use those devices in real time. And it's uncanny how accurate it is. It's really, really neat.
So this is a grant that was given to, it's the migrant grant, right?
It's the Immigrant and Refugees Grant. So yeah, I applied for it. It's the turnaround time is crazy fast. Like I asked for $100,000. They gave us $150,000 and we have to spend it by June 30th.
Okay. That's
So it's like,
what
so we're,
an amazing concept though.
Well,
yeah.
so
I mean, it came from Daily.
we were in Vegas and at the Sphere, they have a whole floor of AI. And so they had this big AI screen. It was the AI was a she. And then there were like 8 different rows. In front of each row was this huge tower of speakers. And whatever row you were in, whatever she was saying was in a different language.
Oh, wow.
And so I could be standing here in this row and you're in that row, and I'm hearing everything in Chinese and you're hearing everything in Spanish, but it's not like I can't, it's not bleeding over into each other. And then when you step out of the row, all you hear is her.
Oh, wow.
And so I looked at that and I went, there's gotta be a way we can use this in the classroom.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing what AI can do. I mean, the stuff that just in general, it is.
Yeah.
I think there's also a way, I don't think it's not probably out yet, but it's probably coming, where we can then also have our kids, you know, in an ELD class, but the AI can be interacting with the student and the teacher to be reinforcing the English to Spanish, Spanish to English, so that, you know, the student can practice with the AI.
Yeah, even just Chat GPT, like the free version, has a
Yeah.
microphone where you can do that. And I've been working on my Spanish in the office, and they come in and I talk to Sandra, and I come in and I'm like, estoy aprendiendo español, puedo escuchar y leer español, mejor por lo que puedo hablar español ahora, pero es importante. I'm working on it. Chat GPT is helping. Yeah, so.
But it's fun, right?
Yeah. Notice.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so there is a lot of tools out there. We just have to find them and use them, but they're really neat. Yeah, so through the Willamette Health Council grant, which is a different grant, we're doing some really neat things with that. We've hired a young lady. Her name is Guadalupe Lopez. She's a former high school student here, graduate of Jervis High School. She still lives in Jervis. She's got siblings that still attend the district. She's currently finishing up her counseling degree right now. I think she got her undergrad from like George Fox. Like she's a fantastic young lady that's just got great potential. And she was working at Tigard High School in some capacity, and we posted for this position of kind of substance abuse, education awareness, promotion of you know, not promotion of substance use, but just education and awareness around substance abuse and the dangers of it. She grabbed that position, and she's been doing some really good stuff. She's pushing into middle school and high school classrooms weekly, building relationships with students. She's going to take some kids on field trips by the end of the year, and just students that are at risk or, you know, or are abusing substance. Like, she's building relationships with them to where they can talk to her, and she's very personable. She builds relationships. They trust her. She's in a very short period of time. So she's doing really, really good work in the middle school and high school around that. Next Tuesday, she and Courtney Utter, who's our district nurse, they're going to host a parent kind of speaker series event. They're bringing in like 3 or 4 different speakers. They're only going to speak for like 15 minutes at a time, but they're going to go 3 or 4 times in a row. Parents, if you show up and you just attend each one of them, there's like a little stamp card. You can get a drawing. You put it in a fish bowl. There's some raffle prizes for just attending, free childcare, free dinner, movie in the cafeteria, that kind of stuff. So I think that starts getting advertised tonight or tomorrow. But just kind of, and those speaker series are things around, you know, what's troubling us in our schools today, stuff that is kind of geared towards high schoolers and the stuff that they're struggling with. we're hosting 6 OHSU nursing candidates this semester, and they're going to be presenting in one of the groups. And so, yeah, that's going really well. And then also in the board report, really, really cool. Spark is the statewide rating system for preschools. And there's a massive packet. You have to go through it. It's professional development for your staff. It's what your rooms look like, all the curriculum you use, et cetera, et cetera. And if you voluntarily opt to go into this process, they will eventually rate you. And you can get a 3-star, 4-star, or 5-star. 5 stars are, you can visit those, but nobody really lives there. Like that's a very difficult, you have to be, I mean, you're a private preschool and make us feel really 5-star because you have limited resources. And I mean, it's like the threshold is incredible. But 3-star is an accomplishment to be rated that. And it's an accomplishment that as of right now, we are the only district-run non-Head Start preschool in the entire state of Oregon with a 3-star rating.
Wow.
Yeah. So there is other, I mean, there are some Head Starts which rent from district facilities and they run Head Start out of districts. There is no other non-Head Start district preschool in the entire state of Oregon that has earned a 3-star rating right now. So Jervis is the only one in the state.
Awesome.
Which is really fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's a testament to Beth Flores and her staff and just kind of the strategy that we have employed over the last couple of years to just say, like, that's a goal. And it was really cool that this month we were able to get there.
So many good things happening.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's really, to be the only one in the state is actually like kind of cool. ELPA scores should be ready to be discussed in the May board meeting. So we'll see how those come out. Special education, we're just doing some forecasting right now with both our elementary and our middle school, high school FLC classes, and just a number of really high need special education students coming in next year and how we're going to staff that. And then I would just say lastly, like every year, ODE reaches out to the districts and looks at your data and says you are non-compliant or you are compliant in different areas. And every single year they come to Jervis and they say you are not compliant because you will identify of all the students who identify to be eligible for special education, 70% of who you identify are Hispanic Latino students. And the state says it should only be 30 to 40%. So every single year I have to reach back out to them and I say, well, let me just show you our demographic information at our elementary and our middle schools where all of our identification takes place. And the demographic population for our middle school and our elementary school is 70% Hispanic Latino. So we are perfectly proportionate. And then they turn around and say, okay, you are compliant. So we got the email today that says we're compliant after I had to walk them through that again. Yeah, we checked our boxes, so we're good with stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Creighton also took Billy when I was out on vacation. I was at the airport and I got this email from the Government Accountability Agency or something. Oh, I'm like, okay, turn that over to Creighton. I'm going on my cruise. So,
yeah.
Creighton, you want to explain?
Yeah, so the Government Accountability Office, GAO, is they're a federal agency, but they definitely are very, very clear that they're not DOJ. They led with that. But when I was an officer in the military for a number of years, we worked with GAO a lot, so I let them know they have their whole spiel. But they are undergoing a federal audit, not in kind of like a disciplinary sense, but just an information gathering process. So it's federal, it's nationwide, but they're going state to state to go to different districts. And they go to the education departments for each state and they say, give us 2 or 3 districts that you think have facilities that are in such dire repair that it's impacting learning. And ODE said Jervis.
Yes. Finally.
Hey. So
They better wear for.
I was gonna say,
Eyes on us for what?
I don't know if it's good or bad to be on that list, but we're at the top. Yeah. So I coordinated with them last week. On Thursday of next week, they're going to come out. It's just 2 or 3 people from the GAO. They're going to meet with Gustavo and Julie and Dandy and probably Karen and a couple other folks. And I'm going to build a schedule as soon as I get 1 or 2 more details back from them. But they're just going to come out and they're just going to talk to people and take a look at the facilities. Obviously pre-bond work. and just kind of gather data on like, you know, when it's September and that boiler in room 6 of the elementary school is knocking so loud, Tiffany's got to take her 4th graders and go out to the hallway because you can't talk over it. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting that I think they're only hitting 2 schools in the state of Oregon, or 2 districts in the state of Oregon. And one. So, yeah.
I'm glad we have done no fun.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good timing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I just like to say the preschool rating is not just because of that, but also because of
Yeah,
I
know.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Karen has provided the budget report. She is online. She can call in if you have any questions. Oh, she's calling right now. Hello, Karen.
What is Maria?
Would you like me to put you on speakerphone? Okay, that was my question. I was on my phone next to Ann, next to. Okay. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm putting you right next to Anna, so have at it.
All right, hello. This is going to be my latest board meeting. It's about 10:30 here.
Oh, I was like, May. We're doing good. Yeah, why calling in? I tried to tell her not to.
Karen,
We can talk to you in a couple weeks.
Okay, I was once at a board meeting until 10:30.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, like you need to worry about
So
this.
anyway, I just wanted to remind you, today is tonight, the due date for the statement of economic interest for government ethics.
Yes. Everyone's
I know
done.
Ginny did hers, and
We've all done it.
Did both of, did everybody else? Did
Yep. They get an A. Yeah.
Good.
You get a gold star.
You know, they only gave me one notification that somebody finished, and that was when Ginny finished. I got nothing else.
Was I first?
So
No, I was first.
I emailed them, asked if it was done, and yes, no response.
Bizarre. No, I did it.
I'm sure I did it.
Yeah.
Had the confirmation, I think, number,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, I don't know about
Okay.
that.
I don't get either. Okay.
Okay, well, the main thing I want to point out as far as my board report is that with these transfers that we're doing for the turf field, we're gonna need what I was thinking, it was either gonna be an appropriations transfer or a supplemental budget. We will just need an appropriations transfer to take care of that, and that's gonna come in at the May board meeting. And by waiting till May as well, it'll make sure that there's nothing else sneaking up as far as any other area in the budget where we might not have enough in one function code opposed to another. So things that we do on the turf field are capital projects, and that's a 4,000 level appropriation. And there's not any 4,000s in the general fund because when we originally planned on using the charter school funds, it wasn't for that purpose, but then our student count went up, so we didn't need it for anything else in the regular budget, which that was kind of our hope. So it freed it up for, another purpose. So, but we didn't have it appropriated in that spot. So I will be working on getting that document ready and, so you have that at the May board meeting. Other than that, everything is moving along pretty much as I have been anticipating that it would, and I'm not surprised by any of the numbers that I am currently seeing in our funds, in our ending fund balance, how that's rounding up to. So I guess I will just turn that over to ask if you have any questions of me.
I do not, Karen. Thank you.
Enjoy your time.
Thank you, enjoy your time.
Thank you, enjoy your time.
Okay, Sharon,
Fantastic.
thanks. Good night.
Good night.
That's dedication there.
Yeah, seriously.
Such a sweetie, and it was so clarifying.
I'd rather have her conscientious and keeping us out of trouble.
You don't want
Only the districts around us.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously. My board report, we have a couple of bond items. I just wanted to mention, along with the equity changing the name to Access, we'll be changing this poster symbol and the word equity to access with the new acronym definition for that. So, and it's time to redo the posters. Those are COVID pictures. It's
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
So, and they're fairly inexpensive Clackamas CSD fixes for us. And then I also talked with Kelly, and I posed the question to her after our conversation, one of the last meetings, about how do we know how effective is our mailing campaign? Is it doing what we wanted it to do? How would we measure that? So she's going to take that question back to her team at the ESD and see if there's a way that they could think of, like, how do we calculate that? How do we measure it? So I should have more information for you on that in the next couple months. So get that going. Did you have any other questions then about, I guess we can talk about, you have an action item as well. It's called reduction in workforce and possible layoffs. So it's the board's role to create that action for myself and Karen to implement. There are so many unknowns with the budget, like from literally one day to the next, things are changing. So we are still budgeting at 11.36 billion in the state with a 15% cap on students with disabilities, which is an increase. And we're assuming that our federal title monies will remain the same, knowing our ELD funding will continue to decrease because we've been exiting so many kids. And then Karen and I have a plan. We've started creating plans about what reductions we would need to make should X, Y, and Z happen. I would start, we would start the reductions with I call them the least forward student facing positions. Do more kind of behind the scenes reductions first. And then, but if the bottom falls out, if things go completely haywire, we lose another $400,000, so it'll be pretty tough for us to make $400,000 worth of cuts and not impact it.
Right.
So, fingers crossed that it's just a game of unknowns. So with that said, if between when we, have this meeting tonight and then we get into May, the May meeting, if something happens at the state level and we start getting notification, I need to be able to have the authority to start giving people notices. And so we can plan and give everybody a chance to figure out what's happening next. I notified both unions and their UNICEF reps and didn't get any feedback other than thank you for letting us know. So that's why it's as an action item.
Yeah, be prepared.
Yeah.
And it really is happening everywhere.
Yeah, right. I mean,
There's 75, 80 teachers or something.
Yeah.
That just got.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a big deal, and we need to be prepared.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all I have.
Yeah. So do we have a focus topic that anybody wants to discuss? No. Then we can move to consent items. One of you want to make a motion?
Yeah. I move that the Jervis District Number 1 Board of Directors approve the consent items as listed in map 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay, action items. I didn't see anything that on here that needed to be talked about on the policy for the infection control and bloodborne pathogens.
I move that the Jervis School District Number 1 Board of Directors approve changes to policies BBAA as shown in action item 04-25-8.1.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that it?
we all go with the reduction that's needed? I move the Jervis School District number 1 Board of Directors approve the possible reduction in workforce as presented by Ms. Stevens.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nice have it. On to turf.
I move that the Jervis School District number 1 Board of Directors approve the contracts for the turf field site prep, excavation, and lighting as shown on agenda item 04-25.8.3.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nice have it. On to roofing.
I move that the Jervis School District number 1 Board of Directors approves the summer roofing award as presented by Scott Rose.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Nice have it.
The action item on the budget committee calendar, so we had it published that the first budget committee meeting was on the 8th. And since we're changing that, and that was board action, you have to change it to May 7th.
All right.
Or, excuse me, it was May 1st was the first meeting, sorry. Now we've moved it to May 7th. In what was published online, we said May 1st was the first board meeting.
Oh, so the
budget
very
committee.
first one's gonna be May 7th.
Yes.
Okay. I move that the Jervis School District number 1 Board of Directors approve the budget committee meeting date as presented by Ms. Davis.
On May 7th.
Or do you want me to say you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Stevens
And then, yeah,
for May 7th.
yes.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nice have it. Now to the health education curriculum.
As of today, we have had 0 people come to view the curriculum or provide any input or ask questions.
Yes. Okay, so let us move on then. Somebody make a motion.
Move that the Jervis School District number 1 Board of Directors adopts the health education curriculum adopted as presented by Ms. Stevens at the March 20th board meeting.
All in favor? Oh, sorry. I
Aye.
was on autopilot.
Second, and they're all aye.
Yeah, we all got bond project update already done, so that's everything, right? I'm adjourning this meeting.
Look at that.
Thank you, everyone.